I'm going to use the paper 1 exam paper that was set in June 2015, so the most recent past paper we have, to show you the types of questions that come up in relation to the unseen non-fiction text, and to explain to you how you can tell from the wording of those questions the types of answers that are required. Now, it's important to remember that the types of questions you are asked and the order in which they appear on the exam paper will always be the same. So although we're looking at the June 2015 paper, actually these types of questions and the order they appear are the same for all of the exam papers for paper 1, and they will be the same for the one that you're going to do in a few weeks' time. So this is the front sheet, and one of the things to notice on here is that it tells you that the marks for each question are shown in brackets, and it tells you to use this as a guide as to how much time to spend on each question. When you are answering the questions on the unseen non-fiction text, you should also, as I've said previously, use the number of marks available as a guide as to how much to write in response to those questions, because they tell you whether you're required to write a short answer or a long answer. Okay, so there's the front sheet, and then what you get when you open the paper is the unseen non-fiction text. And unseen just means it isn't one from the anthology. It's not one that you've studied, it's not one that you've prepared. It's there to test your skimming, your scanning and your reading for meaning skills, sort of fresh, if you like, on something you haven't seen. It could be media non-fiction. More often than not, it tends to be literary non-fiction, and in this case we've got a biography about an old cricketer. Okay, so we have the text. They sometimes put a picture in there, but you won't be asked questions about the picture. So you have 10 minutes to read through this text, getting a general sense of what it's about. As you're reading, it's a good idea to highlight anything that stands out to you, because it might be useful to you later. Having read that, you're then confronted with a series of questions on that text. Question 1 is always worth 1 mark, and it requires a short answer. It requires a very specific answer. If we look at this question, it says, at what time of day does the writer see Larwood at the cricket ground? They are testing your scanning skills, and they are asking you to pick out a very, very specific detail from this text, and this is typical of the kind of question. It's worth 1 mark. You need to do it quickly, and you need to get the right bit of information. And the right bit of information comes up here when we are told in the second paragraph that it was 6 p.m. in the evening. And that is all you need to write. You don't need to write any explanation. You just simply provide the quote as it appears. You write, it was 6 p.m. in the evening, and then you move on to the next one. Now, when we look at question 2, typically this is worth 2 marks, and it will often be in 2 parts, as this question is. And again, typically they will focus your attention on a specific part of the text. So if you look at the beginning of this question, look again at lines 22 to 31. So forget everything else, just look at those lines, and they want you to give 2 words or phrases that the writer uses to describe the boys at the cricket ground. It's only worth 2 marks. They are not expecting long explanations. They're not expecting paragraphs. They want quotes, short quotes. Again, it's testing your scanning skills, and it's testing whether you can be really discriminating in your choice of textual evidence. So that's what's being tested there. So questions 1 and 2 test your scanning skills. They are low scoring. They require short quotations from the text. They will often tell you the specific part of the text to look at to find those quotations, and they do not want explanations, analysis, paragraphs. That comes later. So that's questions 1 and 2, testing scanning. We then move on to question 3. Question 3 typically begins in your own words, and that is telling you that the answer that is required is a summary. Okay, so question 3 is asking for a summary. It is testing your skimming skills, whether you can skim read a text and identify the key points and then select the most important ones of those to provide a summary in your own words of a particular aspect of the text. And in this case, it's what we learn about Larwood's life as a coal miner in Nottingham. So it's not about him as a cricketer, it's about his life as a coal miner. So you're skimming the text for those details. What you mustn't do for question 3 is to include any direct quotations. Again, you are not writing in P paragraphs, you are writing a summary in your own words. And a summary does not mean simply retelling the story. You have to select the key points and then put them into your own words and explain what it is we're learning about his life as a coal miner. When we look at the marks available for this, it's only worth 5 marks. So really you're looking for the 5 key points about whatever aspect it is, in this case Larwood's life as a coal miner, and then you're going to write about those in your own words without using quotations, without making direct references. So question 3 tests your skimming skills, it tests whether you can identify key points, and it tests whether you're able to express your ideas without relying on direct quotations on the words of others. They want it in your own words. When we come to question 4, we then get something far more familiar from the course. How does the writer try to present his thoughts and feelings about Larwood? In your answer, you should write about how Larwood is described, how the writer and other people react to Larwood, particular words, phrases and techniques. You may include brief quotations from the passage to support your answer, and you will notice that this is worth 12 marks. Now, hopefully you will recognise this as an essay question. The keyword how is directing you to look at the writer's techniques, so his use of language, his use of structure, any use of figurative devices, and typically it's thoughts and feelings. So it's a fairly open essay question exploring the way that the writer feels about the person he's writing about. As with these, the longer question on paper 2, you're given a series of bullet points to help you. So how Larwood is described, how the writer and other people react to Larwood, and then of course particular words, phrases and techniques. As with all of these bullet points, you are expected to cover them. You have to write about them. You can use them to help you to structure your response, your essay response. So you can write a couple of paragraphs on how Larwood is described, a couple on how the writer reacts to Larwood, a couple on how other people react to him, and within those you should be referring to words, phrases, techniques, pulling the language features apart at word, sentence and text level as you've been taught throughout this course. You are reminded to include brief quotations to support your answer, and what they are looking for is a well-structured formal essay response. So you must begin with an introduction which uses the keywords of the question. You must then go on to provide a series of linked P paragraphs that are addressing the keywords of the question, so exploring the thoughts and feelings about Larwood and also addressing the bullet points. And then you must provide a brief conclusion which answers the question directly and sums up what you have said. So that is testing your reading for meaning skills, and they want to see you focusing on the writer's use of language. So really looking for figurative devices, looking for interesting phrases, interesting words, the way we get a sense of the writer's attitudes and values. So they are our 4 typical questions for section A of paper 1.